Ladies and gentlemen, most of our stress, frustration, and even sadness stem from a simple but powerful mistake. We try to control things that are not within our power. We obsess over what others think of us, worry about future events that may never happen, and replay past mistakes we cannot change. We attempt to manipulate circumstances, people, and outcomes as if we are the masters of the universe. And when reality refuses to comply with our desires, we feel stressed, anxious, and even depressed. But what if the key to peace was not controlling everything, but knowing what is truly within our control and letting go of everything else? Imagine waking up in the morning to a thunderstorm on the day you planned an important outdoor event. Many people would immediately feel frustrated, stressed, or even angry. They might complain about how unfair it is, how the weather ruined their plans, how they deserve better. But the truth is, no amount of complaining or wishing can change the weather. The storm does not care about your plans, nor is it something within your power to stop. So why waste energy resisting what you cannot change? The only rational response is to accept the situation and adjust. You can move the event indoors, reschedule, or make the best of the situation as it is. This simple example applies to almost every challenge in life. Every day we are faced with situations where we must choose how to respond. The key is to clearly distinguish between what we can and cannot control. You can control your effort, but not always the outcome. You can control your words and actions, but not how people interpret them. You can control your decisions, but not the consequences that follow. Understanding this distinction is the foundation of true mental strength and peace. Let's take relationships as another example. Many people stress over how others perceive them. They overthink conversations, replay moments, and try to control how others react. They seek approval, validation, and admiration, believing that their happiness depends on what others think of them. But here's the truth: you cannot control other people's opinions. You cannot force someone to like you, respect you, or treat you fairly. You can be kind, honest, and genuine, but ultimately how people respond is out of your hands. If you attach your happiness to the approval of others, you will always be at their mercy. But if you focus only on being the best version of yourself, acting with integrity, and letting go of what you cannot change, you will experience true freedom. Many of us also spend time worrying about the future. What if things don't work out? What if I fail? What if I lose what I have? The problem with this mindset is that the future is not within our control. You can prepare, plan, and make smart choices, but you cannot predict or guarantee outcomes. Worrying does not prevent problems. It only drains your energy and makes you suffer before anything has even happened. The best way to handle the future is to focus on what you can do today. Take action, do your best, and accept that whatever happens, you will handle it when it comes. Similarly, people waste energy regretting the past. They replay mistakes, dwell on what could have been, and punish themselves for things they cannot undo. But the past is already written, and no amount of regret or guilt can rewrite it. What is within your control is how you learn from it. You can either use the past as a burden that weighs you down or as a lesson that makes you wiser. The choice is yours. One of the biggest sources of suffering is when we expect life to be different from what it is. We expect fairness, but life is not always fair. We expect things to go our way, but they often don't. We expect people to act in a certain way, but they have their own paths. When reality does not match our expectations, we become frustrated. But the problem is not life, it is our attachment to unrealistic expectations. Instead of fighting reality, the key to peace is to accept things as they are and focus only on what you can do in response. So how do we apply this mindset in everyday life? First, whenever you feel stressed, ask yourself, is this something I can control? If the answer is yes, take action. If the answer is no, let it go. If someone cuts you off in traffic, getting angry does not change the situation. If a project at work fails, dwelling on it does not fix it. If someone does not like you, forcing their approval will only make things worse. The moment you stop trying to control the uncontrollable, you reclaim your power. This mindset does not mean you become passive or indifferent. It means you direct your energy toward what actually matters. You take responsibility for your actions, decisions, and mindset while accepting that some things are simply beyond your reach. This is not weakness, it is wisdom. It is the art of choosing your battles wisely, of putting your focus where it actually makes a difference, and of freeing yourself from unnecessary stress and suffering. When you master this, you will experience a profound sense of peace. You will no longer be at the mercy of external events, the opinions of others, or the unpredictability of life. You will be grounded, unshaken, and free, because true strength is not found in controlling the world, but in mastering yourself. Perception shapes our entire experience of life. It determines how we interpret events, how we react to challenges, and how we feel about ourselves and the world around us. Two people can go through the exact same situation and yet have completely different experiences simply because of the way they perceive it. The world itself does not dictate our emotions or state of mind, our perception does. When we learn to control and reshape our perception, we gain the ability to remain calm in the face of adversity, find opportunities in difficulty, and free ourselves from unnecessary suffering. Imagine two individuals lose their jobs on the same day. The first person sees it as a disaster. They feel like a failure, believe their life is ruined, and allow stress and depression to consume them. They focus on what they lost, replay the event in their mind with bitterness, and feel hopeless about the future. The second person, facing the exact same reality, sees the loss of a job as an opportunity for something new. They acknowledge the difficulty, but use it as motivation to explore different paths, develop new skills, and take control of their next move. The situation is the same, but the perception is entirely different, and with that difference comes an entirely different emotional experience and future outcome. Our minds are conditioned to assign meaning to everything we experience. However, we often do this unconsciously, allowing emotions and past experiences to dictate how we interpret the present. This is why two people can face the same event and have completely different reactions. A delay in traffic might make one person furious while another simply turns on some music and enjoys the extra time. A harsh comment from a colleague might ruin one person's entire day while another barely notices it. The difference is not in the external world, it is in the way each person perceives it. Many people live their lives assuming that things are inherently good or bad, positive or negative, lucky or unlucky. But the truth is, things simply happen, our minds decide what they mean. This is why perception is so powerful. If we change the way we see things, we can change how we experience life itself. If we learn to interpret challenges as lessons, setbacks as redirections, and failures as opportunities, then we become untouchable by stress, disappointment, and despair. Consider the story of a man who loses everything in a financial crash. He could see himself as a victim of bad luck, give up, and let the loss define him. Or he could see it as a painful but valuable lesson, a chance to rebuild, a test of resilience. One perception leads to misery, while the other leads to growth. The situation remains the same, but the experience is transformed by the way he chooses to see it. Perception is not just about how we see external events, it also determines how we see ourselves. Many people struggle with self-doubt, insecurity, and feelings of inadequacy, not because they are actually lacking in value, but because they perceive themselves that way. They magnify their flaws, compare themselves to others, and dwell on their weaknesses. But if they shifted their perception, they could see their own strengths, recognize their progress, and embrace themselves as they are. The way we perceive ourselves sets the foundation for our confidence, our happiness, and even our ability to succeed. A common example of the power of perception is seen in failure. Some people see failure as proof that they are not good enough. They take it personally, allowing it to damage their confidence and discourage them from trying again. Others see failure as simply part of the process. They recognize that failure is necessary for growth, that every mistake teaches something valuable, and that success is built on learning from failures rather than avoiding them. This difference in perception determines who gives up and who keeps going. Perception also plays a crucial role in how we handle adversity. Life is unpredictable, and everyone will face hardships at some point. Whether it is loss, rejection, illness, or disappointment, difficulties are unavoidable. However, the way we perceive these hardships makes all the difference. Some people let adversity break them. They see misfortune as a sign that life is against them, that things will never improve, that they are helpless. Others use adversity as fuel. They see challenges as tests of strength, obstacles as opportunities for growth, and setbacks as part of the journey. They refuse to be victims of circumstance because their perception transforms hardship into a tool for becoming stronger. One of the greatest lessons in mastering perception is understanding that nothing is as bad as our minds often make it out to be. Fear, anxiety, and stress are often products of distorted perception. We imagine the worst, exaggerate problems, and let our thoughts spiral into unnecessary suffering. But when we step back and shift our perception, we often realize that most of our worries are either temporary, solvable, or simply not worth the energy we give them. Another aspect of perception is learning to see the good in every situation. This does not mean ignoring difficulties or pretending everything is perfect. It means training the mind to focus on what is within our control and what can be gained rather than what is lost. A broken relationship can be seen as painful, but it can also be seen as an opportunity for self-growth. A career setback can be frustrating, but it can also be the push needed to pursue something better. Even in moments of pain, there is always something to be learned, something to appreciate, or something that can make us stronger. The ability to shift perception is one of the most valuable skills a person can develop. It takes practice, but it is life-changing. Whenever a challenge arises, instead of reacting automatically with frustration or negativity, pause and ask, how else can I see this? What is the opportunity here? What can I learn from this? Simply changing the questions we ask ourselves can shift our perception, and in turn, change how we feel and respond. The world will always be unpredictable. People will be difficult, plans will fail, and challenges will arise. But none of these things have power over us unless we allow them to. Our perception is what gives meaning to our experiences, and by mastering it, we free ourselves from unnecessary suffering and open the door to resilience, growth, and inner peace. When we change the way we look at life, life itself changes. Life rarely unfolds exactly as we expect or desire. No matter how much we plan, hope, or work toward a specific outcome, reality often has a different path in store. We face unexpected challenges, disappointments, and circumstances beyond our control. When life does not match our expectations, many people react with frustration, sadness, or resistance. They dwell on how things should have been and feel trapped by their inability to shape life according to their wishes. But true peace comes not from forcing life to conform to our desires, but from learning to accept it as it is on its own terms, not ours. Much of human suffering comes from resisting reality. We create a version of the world in our minds, a version where everything goes as planned, where people act as we want them to, where hardships do not exist or at least happen on our terms. But this version of life is an illusion. The real world does not bend to our wishes. No amount of wishing can erase setbacks, make people behave differently, or prevent hardship. When we refuse to accept this truth, we create suffering for ourselves. We become angry when people do not act as we expect, frustrated when events take a different turn, and disappointed when life does not meet our imagined standards. Acceptance does not mean giving up or being passive. It means understanding reality for what it is, and working with it rather than against it. When we accept life as it is, we stop wasting energy on things we cannot change. We stop trying to control the uncontrollable. Instead of resisting the present moment, we embrace it and focus on what we can do within it. This shift in mindset frees us from unnecessary stress and allows us to move forward with clarity and resilience. Consider someone who experiences a major setback, such as losing a job or facing the end of a relationship. Many people react by dwelling on what could have been. They think about how unfair it is, how they deserved a different outcome, how things should have gone their way. This resistance to reality keeps them stuck in pain, unable to move forward. But the truth is, no amount of wishing can change what has already happened. The only productive response is to accept the situation and decide what to do next. Acceptance allows us to face challenges with strength rather than frustration. When we accept that obstacles are a natural part of life, we stop feeling personally attacked by them. We recognize that hardships do not happen to us, but are simply part of the human experience. Every person, no matter how successful or privileged, faces difficulties. Struggles are not punishments, they are simply reality. When we embrace this truth, we stop wasting energy complaining about problems and start focusing on overcoming them. People often resist acceptance because they mistake it for complacency. They believe that if they accept a difficult situation, they are giving up or allowing it to control them. But in reality, acceptance is the first step toward change. When we accept where we are, we gain the clarity to make better decisions. A person drowning in regret about the past cannot change their future because they are too focused on what should have been. But a person who accepts their situation as it is can start making meaningful changes. Expectations are another major source of suffering. We expect life to be fair, people to be kind, efforts to be rewarded, and plans to go smoothly. When these expectations are not met, we feel cheated or betrayed. But life has never promised fairness or predictability. People will sometimes disappoint us, efforts will sometimes go unnoticed, and plans will sometimes fall apart. The sooner we accept this, the less power these disappointments will have over us. Instead of becoming bitter when things do not go our way, we can learn to adjust, adapt, and move forward without resentment. Another powerful example of acceptance is seen in how we deal with loss. Losing a loved one, a job, an opportunity, or even a version of ourselves that no longer exists can be painful. Many people resist this reality by living in denial or refusing to let go. They cling to what was, wishing they could bring it back. But resisting loss does not prevent it, it only prolongs suffering. True healing begins with acceptance. When we acknowledge loss as a natural part of life, we allow ourselves to grieve, to process, and ultimately to find peace. Even in daily life, resistance to reality causes unnecessary frustration. A person stuck in traffic may become angry, wishing the roads were clearer. But traffic exists, whether we like it or not. A person annoyed by the weather may spend the day complaining, but their frustration does not change the rain. These reactions are examples of fighting reality instead of accepting it. When we accept things as they are, we stop letting small inconveniences ruin our peace. Instead of resisting, we adjust, we listen to music in traffic, we bring an umbrella, we make the best of whatever comes our way. Acceptance also applies to how we see ourselves. Many people struggle with self-criticism, feeling frustrated with their own limitations, mistakes or flaws. They compare themselves to others, wishing they were different. But self-acceptance is key to growth and confidence. When we accept ourselves, our strengths, weaknesses, past choices, and present reality, we stop wasting energy on self-judgment. Instead of being trapped by regret or insecurity, we can focus on improving and making the most of who we are. The path to inner peace is not found in controlling everything or demanding that life meet our expectations. It is found in accepting what is, working with it, and making the best of it. Life will never be exactly as we wish, but that does not mean it cannot be beautiful, meaningful, and fulfilling. The moment we stop resisting reality and start accepting it, we free ourselves from unnecessary suffering and unlock the strength to face whatever comes next. Death is the one certainty of life, yet it is often the one truth people try to avoid thinking about. We live as though we have unlimited time, delaying our dreams, postponing important conversations, and assuming that tomorrow will always be there. But the reality is that life is fleeting, and our time is limited. To remember this truth is not to be morbid or fearful, it is to be wise. The phrase Memento Mori, meaning remember that you will die, is a powerful reminder to live fully, to focus on what truly matters, and to free ourselves from the trivial distractions that so often consume us. Most people live under the illusion that they have all the time in the world. They act as though they will be around forever, pushing important goals into the future, and assuming they can always make up for lost time. But death does not wait for us to be ready. It comes unexpectedly, sometimes suddenly, and always without negotiation. To ignore this fact is to live in delusion, but to embrace it is to awaken to life's true value. When we remember that we are mortal, we stop wasting time on meaningless pursuits. We stop holding grudges over trivial matters, stop delaying the things we truly want, and stop fearing what others think of us. We realize that the only moment we truly have is the present, and we begin to live with urgency, purpose, and gratitude. One of the greatest gifts of remembering death is that it puts everything into perspective. Many of the things people stress over are insignificant in the grand scheme of life. Petty arguments, minor inconveniences, and temporary setbacks feel important in the moment, but when viewed through the lens of mortality, they lose their power. If today were your last day, would you waste it being angry over something trivial? Would you let yourself be consumed by stress about things that, in the end, do not truly matter? When we acknowledge the shortness of life, we gain the ability to rise above unnecessary suffering and focus on what is truly meaningful. Thinking about death also frees us from the fear of failure. Many people hesitate to pursue their dreams because they are afraid of failing or looking foolish. But in the end, none of those fears matter. The opinions of others, the embarrassment of failure, and the discomfort of starting something new all fade into insignificance when compared to the reality that one day none of it will exist. When we keep death in mind, we realize that the only real failure is not trying. It becomes clear that the regret of never having lived fully is far worse than the temporary pain of making mistakes. Beyond personal ambition, Memento Mori also transforms the way we interact with others. When we remember that life is short, we become more patient, more forgiving, and more present in our relationships. We stop taking our loved ones for granted, knowing that any moment could be the last time we see them. How often do people leave words unspoken, assuming they will have another opportunity? How many people regret not expressing their love, not apologizing, or not spending more time with those who mattered most? Remembering death reminds us to cherish those around us, to speak our truth, and to act with kindness before it is too late. Acknowledging mortality also helps us let go of resentment. Holding grudges is one of the most pointless ways to spend our limited time. When viewed through the reality of death, anger and hatred appear small and meaningless. If we knew we had only days left to live, would we waste them being bitter towards someone? More often than not, the answer is no. Memento Mori teaches us that life is too short for unnecessary negativity. Instead of clinging to resentment, we can choose to focus on love, understanding, and moving forward. Many people fear death, seeing it as something to avoid thinking about. But fearing death does not prevent it, it only prevents us from truly living. The greatest fear should not be death itself, but reaching the end of life with regrets. The regret of not taking risks, not expressing love, not pursuing passions, and not living with authenticity. When we keep death in mind, we eliminate these regrets before it is too late. We stop procrastinating on what truly matters and start living with intention. Another lesson Memento Mori offers is the importance of gratitude. When we remember that our time is limited, even the simplest moments become precious. A conversation with a friend, a quiet walk, a beautiful sunset, these are things we often overlook, but they become profound when we see them through the perspective of impermanence. Each day is a gift, and to recognize that gift is to live with appreciation for every experience, no matter how small. The reality of death also pushes us to define what truly matters. When we acknowledge that we do not have forever, we begin to ask ourselves deeper questions. What kind of legacy do we want to leave? What impact do we want to have? How do we want to be remembered? When we live with the awareness that our time is finite, we prioritize what aligns with our values and stop wasting energy on things that do not contribute to a meaningful life. Ultimately, Memento Mori is not about fearing death, but about using its certainty as a tool for living well. It is a call to action, a reminder that life is happening now, and that the worst thing we can do is let it slip away while we wait for some distant right time. There is no right time, there is only now. When we accept our mortality, we embrace life fully, without hesitation, without fear, and without regret. Desire and expectation are two forces that shape human experience, yet they are also two of the greatest sources of suffering. People constantly desire things: success, love, wealth, recognition, comfort, and when they do not get them, they feel frustrated, anxious, or even hopeless. Similarly, they set expectations about how others should behave, how events should unfold, or how life should treat them. When reality does not match these expectations, disappointment and resentment arise. The key to inner peace lies in detaching from both desire and expectation. learning to flow with life rather than fight against it. Desire itself is not inherently bad. It is natural to want things, to strive for improvement, and to set goals. However, problems arise when people become attached to their desires, making their happiness dependent on achieving them. When someone ties their sense of self-worth or inner peace to an external outcome, they place themselves at the mercy of circumstances beyond their control. If they do not get what they want, they suffer. Even if they do achieve their desires, the satisfaction is often temporary, and a new desire quickly takes its place. This endless cycle of craving and chasing leads to perpetual dissatisfaction. The same principle applies to expectations. When people expect life to go a certain way, they set themselves up for disappointment. Life is unpredictable, and the world does not operate according to individual wishes. People will sometimes behave differently than expected, plans will fall apart, and circumstances will shift unexpectedly. When expectations are rigid, every deviation from them feels like a personal failure or injustice. But in reality, most of life's disappointments stem not from actual suffering, but from the gap between what was expected and what actually happened. By letting go of rigid expectations, people free themselves from unnecessary frustration. One of the greatest benefits of detaching from desire and expectation is the ability to remain calm and adaptable in any situation. Instead of reacting with disappointment when things do not go as planned, those who practice detachment can accept reality as it is and adjust accordingly. They understand that clinging to a specific outcome only creates suffering, whereas openness allows for peace and clarity. If something good happens, they appreciate it. If things do not go as hoped, they accept it without letting it disturb their inner balance. Detachment does not mean giving up ambition or becoming indifferent. It simply means pursuing goals without becoming emotionally dependent on the results. A person can work hard, aim for success, and give their best effort while still remaining detached from the outcome. If they succeed, they celebrate. If they fail, they learn and move on without being consumed by disappointment. This mindset creates resilience and prevents unnecessary suffering. Relationships are another area where detachment from desire and expectation leads to greater peace. Many people suffer in relationships because they expect others to fulfill their emotional needs, behave in certain ways, or meet unspoken demands. When others fail to meet these expectations, resentment and frustration arise. But people are complex and cannot always act in ways that align with someone else's desires. By detaching from the need for others to behave a certain way, relationships become lighter, more genuine, and free from unrealistic pressure. Love and connection grow stronger when they are not based on expectation but on appreciation for what is. Detachment from desire and expectation also allows people to experience life with greater presence. When someone is always focused on what they want or what they think should happen, they miss what is actually happening in the moment. They overlook the beauty of the present because their mind is preoccupied with the future or consumed by frustration over unmet desires. But when they let go of attachment to outcomes, they can fully experience and appreciate each moment without distraction. Life becomes richer, more peaceful and more fulfilling. By releasing attachment to desires and expectations, people liberate themselves from the constant roller coaster of highs and lows. They no longer live in a state of endless craving or disappointment. Instead, they find contentment in simply being, in accepting life as it comes, and in knowing that true peace comes not from external achievements, but from within. Adversity is an unavoidable part of life. No one goes through life without experiencing hardship, setbacks, or challenges. Yet, it is not the adversity itself that defines a person, but how they respond to it. Some allow difficulties to break them, while others use challenges as fuel for growth, resilience, and inner strength. The ability to endure hardship and emerge stronger is one of the most valuable traits a person can develop. Strength is not found in avoiding adversity, but in facing it, embracing it, and using it as an opportunity to build character. Difficulties often reveal a person's true nature. When things are easy, it is simple to remain calm and composed. However, when hardship strikes, a person's mindset and inner fortitude are put to the test. Adversity forces people to confront their fears, limitations, and insecurities. It strips away illusions and reveals what truly matters. Many people resist challenges when life was smoother and more predictable. But the reality is that without struggle there is no growth. Just as muscles grow stronger through resistance, the human spirit strengthens through adversity. A common response to hardship is to view it as an unfair burden, something to be avoided at all costs. But challenges are not obstacles meant to stop a person, they are opportunities to develop resilience. The strongest people are not those who have themselves never faced difficulties, but those who have been tested and have learned how to endure, adapt, and persevere. Every difficulty presents a choice: either allow it to defeat and discourage, or use it as a stepping stone to greater wisdom and strength. One of the greatest lessons adversity teaches is the ability to control one's reactions. While no one can control everything that happens in life, they can always control how they respond. Some people crumble under pressure, allowing their struggles to consume them. Others rise to the occasion, using hardship as an opportunity to develop patience, discipline, and resilience. Strength comes from understanding that suffering is a natural part of life, and that how one chooses to face it determines its impact. Resilience is not about pretending that pain or hardship does not exist. It is about acknowledging struggle, feeling its weight, but refusing to be defeated by it. Life is full of unpredictable events: illness, loss, failure, disappointment, but these experiences do not have to lead to despair. They can serve as reminders of one's ability to endure, to adapt, and to find meaning even in difficulty. People who cultivate this mindset do not fear adversity. They welcome it as a chance to grow. Another benefit of adversity is that it forces people to step outside their comfort zones. Comfort may feel safe, but it does not lead to growth. True transformation happens in moments of struggle, when a person is forced to dig deep, to reassess their priorities, and to push beyond their perceived limits. Many of history's greatest leaders, thinkers, and innovators did not succeed because they avoided hardship, but because they faced it head-on, using failure and difficulty as motivation to improve. Adversity also strengthens character. It teaches patience, humility, and gratitude. Those who have experienced hardship often develop a deeper appreciation for life, as they understand how fragile and unpredictable it can be. They learn to value what they have rather than constantly longing for what they lack. Challenges also cultivate empathy, as those who have struggled often develop a greater understanding and compassion for the suffering of others. Hardships serve as reminders that nothing in life is permanent: not success, not failure, not suffering. Just as good times do not last forever, neither do difficult ones. Those who learn to navigate challenges with perseverance and adaptability emerge stronger, more capable, and more prepared for whatever life brings next. They understand that adversity is not a punishment, but a test, a chance to develop the kind of strength that cannot be broken. The true measure of strength is not in avoiding hardship, but in facing it with courage, resilience, and wisdom. Adversity is not meant to break us, it is meant to shape us, to refine us, and to reveal our true potential. Those who learn to embrace challenges rather than fear them become unshakable, prepared for whatever life may bring. Hard times will come, but they do not define us, our response to them does. So instead of resisting adversity, welcome it as a teacher, a test, and an opportunity to grow. In the end, strength is not found in the absence of struggle, but in the ability to rise again and again, no matter how many times life knocks us down.